ladies and gentlemen, here on a Wednesday night, I believe. Yeah,
Wednesday, yes,
hump
Wednesday.
day. Hump day. So, Dave, who do we got this week?
We've got Rob Peters, DiFazio.
Hey, what's happening? How are we?
We're always good. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So if anybody doesn't know who Rob is, Rob's been a part of the entertainment world for, it seems like forever since I've met him. He's been in the business 35 years, that long.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
You know, usually 35 years, they do weird stuff like tell you to retire and they build a statue somewhere. And that neither of those have happened yet. So I'm pretty good. It's been 35 years. I started when I was in college as a DJ and built my own business from it.
And I hear it's quite the business. You must be doing well because from what I understand, you're a world-renowned author also.
Two-time world-renowned author. So
there we go.
We will dive into that as we talk tonight because it's funny. I used to have a business partner and we would talk every now and then. And he would always say to me, you know, imagine if we did this on purpose and we were intentional, because the majority of the stuff that happened in my business was accidental. The books were actually intentional, but just the way the idea of the books came about though was pretty unique and pretty accidental. It literally, some of the stuff in my career fell in my lap. Some of the stuff in my career is stuff that I really worked hard at. So it's been quite a ride though, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. We're based up in Boston. So to give your viewers an idea, I am 10 minutes away from Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, the home of the New England Patriots, if you're a football fan. I don't see anybody booing at the moment, so I guess that's a good thing. I always tell
we're people, Eagles fans, so you know we
listen. I'm a NASCAR guy. I really am. As much as I jump on that bandwagon when the Patriots are playing, my Sundays right now are tuned in and watching people go round and round in circles and loving every minute of it. So.
Well, I live in the home of Roger Penske, so that's where I'm at.
Yep.
So
it's been, but it's been incredible, and you know, it's funny. You talk about networking. I met Dave. Geez, how long have we known each other now? It's been a while.
It's been a lot of years. Yeah, we met through mutual friends. And every time I get to see Robbie, he's always got a smile on his face, and he's interested in the person, you know. And we've stayed in touch over the years, you know, here and there, and I adore Rob, and I was so glad that when I knew that you were putting the book together, because you had talked about it, and I was excited, you know, and then I heard you speak at MEX, the MEX side. And I thought that this is a great topic for not just photo booth, or not just for DJs, but also for photo booth owners, because a lot of us are small business owners. You know,
when you really look at it, Dave, when you think about it, and I had this conversation. I was on with John Young last night, and we had a similar conversation about this. There was only one giant, quote, DJ franchise in the industry, and they don't exist anymore. It was Complete Music, and they had a good.
Well, you also
concept.
had the pros.
Well, yeah, the pros are a little bit different. The pros are more, they're not exactly 100% DJ based when you think about it. They are a great franchise, and they're one of the examples of why I actually got into this whole book and wanted to foster small business in the first place. Is we're competing against companies like them. We're competing against companies like Complete Music, and they got a great idea, like DJ photo and video for a low price. That's great on the consumer end, but we all know that the whole theory of you get what you pay for. And I mean, I built my business. I worked for a company like that where the DJ didn't talk to anybody until like a week before the wedding. And I'm like, I want to meet my client before they walk through the door. I want them to know I'm the guy, and I want them to know. As I built my business, I became a multi-op, and I required my DJs. I said, I am going to schedule you all. You're going to tell me what night of the week I can have you. And when I can have you, you're going to come to the office if I tell you to, and you're going to sit in a sales meeting with me, and you're going to meet your bride so they know the face of the person who's going to be showing up that day.
Well, and I'm sure that's always also expanded to the vendors.
Exactly.
Getting to know all the vendors that you're working with is, I think, critical, not just as a DJ, but also as a photographer, as a videographer, as a photo booth owner. Knowing everybody that you're working with is, building a network.
Exactly. Your network, it consists of Fran. And we talked about this at one of the seminars I did. When I first heard the concept and developed it a little bit, I thought of Fran Drescher from The Nanny. And when you think about it, your network is Fran. It's your friends, your acquaintances. Your friends, your relatives, your acquaintances, right? And your neighbors. And when you put that all together and you were to sit down, if you were to sit down and do this and make a list of everybody you knew that fit FRAN, you would probably get at least 500, maybe 600 or 700 people. That's a big network.
Sure.
But the thing is, how many of those people have you had direct contact with maybe in the past 3 to 6 months? If you've been able to pull off 600 or 700 people, send me an email because I'd love to meet you and figure out how to do it. I'll be honest with you, there are only 24 hours in a day. But I read a study in the New York Times that said that even though we know about 600 people, there's really a core group of 150 that we keep in touch with on a regular basis. And part of networking is learning how to finesse those people, but at the same time, still making sure you don't lose a connection with maybe somebody you haven't talked with in about 8 months, or maybe your client whose wedding you did 2 years ago, and coming up with a way to continue to maintain some kind of communication, whether it's an email newsletter or maybe you're sending them an anniversary card on their anniversary, whatever that is, to maintain that little effort, touch, if you will, is going to make a world of difference in their lives, especially when it comes to them wanting to refer you. And isn't that really what networking is all about? It's about not only getting to know people face to face so that you network with them, it's also getting to know the people that they know, because I've got 600, Art's got 600, Dave's got 600. Now, I'm sure that there is a percentage of our 600 combined that we all know. Like, there's a connection. And that's great. But I want to know the guy that, for example, Art maybe is up here in Boston and it's somebody maybe it's a relative and they need a DJ or a photo booth for an event, and you don't want to do the event. You want to refer them to somebody that's going to go out and do a great job. I want to build that relationship so that you like me and trust me. And if you like me and trust me, at the very least, you're going to think of me when somebody says, I need XYZ service. And again, it doesn't have to be DJ or photo booth. And we started off with this. The majority of our industries, the majority of the wedding industry, when you think about it, is small business related. And it was a great place to be able to take off and start working on this book. Truth be told, I got into small business, and this is going to throw you for a loop, Dave. I never really talked about how this all got started. My dad owned gas stations. My dad was a Mobil oil dealer. He was an Exxon dealer. He was a Sunoco dealer. And those are some pretty big names. But when you're a dealer, you're a small business unless you own like 20 locations, right? And I learned a lot about small business from my dad. I learned about what I could do. I learned about what I didn't want to do. But I learned a lot of that stuff just watching him run his gas station, which back in the day, most gas stations when I was growing up, and I'm sure we can all remember a time, your gas station had gas pumps and 2 repair bays and had a Coke machine out front if you wanted a soda. They didn't have these elaborate shops with, pizza ovens and hot dogs and, groceries going on in it. My dad was actually one of the ones on the South Shore of Massachusetts to actually do that. Mobile Oil used him as a test center, and they would try out different concepts when they were looking to compete with Jiffy Lube and do a 10-minute oil change. They came to him and they made one of his bays what was called an express lube bay, and we were doing full oil changes in 10 to 15 minutes. And I learned a lot about just about a lot of that stuff from him. And then the rest of it I learned through school. But the majority of the things that I talk about, like, I didn't learn networking in school. I hired a coach when I got out of college. That coach taught me a lot of things. We still keep in touch. But I took what she taught me and adapted it to me. And I thought that it was really cool to do that. Somebody asked me not too long ago, if there was one thing you wish you did differently in 38 years, what would it be? And for me, it would be to have learned the value of networking 37 years ago.
Hmm.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's interesting you talk about the gas station, right? And how they didn't have, sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of same thing with like either, the DJ industry, right? It's like you were a DJ company, you did just DJ stuff. And now, just like gas stations in our area, it's Wawa, right? I don't know if you've heard of a Wawa.
Yep.
They
I'm a
it's
big
kind of
Wawa
reversed.
guy, by the way. When I get down your neck of the woods,
yeah,
I love Wawa.
Yeah, so it's or let's say something more universal here. Let's go with like Circle K's or what's the other big one? Like where it was just a gas station, but then they added on like all the different like grocery store amenities, like just convenience store stuff, right? DJs, same thing. It's
Exactly.
just DJs, but now DJs are the same mentality. Like, well, I can add on marquee letters, I can add on a photo booth. One guy in my area is now added on like balloons, you name it. Like so more and more people are realizing, hey, we can be just more than just one niche of a service. We've got a client base, which is what the gas stations were, right? You already had people coming in for gas. You've got the traffic. Now just pile on more added value and upsells. So I think that's what we're seeing.
The art of the art of the upsell is something that I didn't really get until after I graduated college. I had a job for a little bit working at a record store. Talk about typecasting the DJ, right? He works in a record store and he spends on the weekends, right? And it was a regional chain up here in the Northeast. It was called Strawberries, and they actually used to own a chain that I believe is down by you guys called Waxy Maxie's. It was all up and down the East Coast, and they had this policy where you had to suggestive sell as part of the checkout process. And I never really thought about it. And it was funny because the majority of it made sense. You were selling a CD and they wanted you, and again, 1991, so do the math. They wanted you to sell blank cassettes because nobody had a CD player in their car at that point in time.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of that went together, but there was some mismatched stuff that they tried to suggestive sell that was just like, who in the office is coming up with these ideas and stuff? And it was basically stuff that they would buy that they would think they'd make money with. But the suggestive sell works in our industry now. It's you've got the DJ, you've got the letters and the photo booth and everything else. Truth be told, in full disclosure, the majority of my business is now not wedding. It's now more corporate than anything else. But any weddings I'm doing, I have 5 weddings booked in the next 12 months, personally. The majority of my business is more corporate and repeat business. One of the things that I learned being in this business is the majority of what we do, whether you're a photo booth or DJ, are one-off events. The weddings, the mitzvahs, the 50th birthday parties, right? Those are one-off events, meaning the likelihood of that same bride calling you again, well, in today's world, it's a little different, but the chances of them calling you again for your services, again, for them specifically, is slim. That's pretty fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you develop a repeat clientele and a repeat business model, And maybe it's, and again, on a wedding end, it's getting to know the family, getting to
Yes.
know and asking that question in the sales process. Do you have any siblings? There's your
Hmm.
repeat right there.
Yeah.
Same thing in the bar and bat mitzvah world. When you really can't at a 50th birthday party go around and go, who else is 50?
60.
Right?
Yeah.
Be on the microphone. Who else is 50? Oh, yeah, do me a favor, and I'm going to hand you all my card. The majority of my business is corporate, it's game shows, and it's bars. In fact, as we're doing this right now, I have 5 bar trivia nights going on all throughout southeastern Massachusetts right now. I've got my crews out there doing it, and I basically now, I'm kind of like the lion tamer. I'm the one that makes sure nobody gets hurt and writes checks. And it's a pretty cool feeling, but it wasn't
Mhm.
always that way. But developing your business, whatever your model is, it's going to be different for everybody. And that's one of the things that I encounter when I talk to people is they're like, well, that works for you. And I'm like, you're right, it does work for me. But to be able to take an idea and to be able to sit with somebody, and that's what I've been doing a lot of lately, is as I meet people, they'll ask questions like, well, how did you get to this point? And it's like, well, I really can't give you a detailed plan because truthfully, you are here, I am here, and we're both on different sides of the country where the dollar value is going to be different.
Mhm.
So getting to know that a little bit and having that conversation, that dialogue has been huge.
Let's talk about something there. So, you mentioned, when you first started out, it was a lot of like weddings and stuff like that, and the smaller
Mhm.
events. And I meet with a lot of photo booths and DJ companies, for that matter, across the U.S. on a weekly basis. And the common theme is, "Hey, Art," and I mentor these for marketing. "Hey, Art, I really want to focus on corporate right now." It's like, yeah, I'd like the weddings and small stuff, but I want the bigger stuff. I want the corporate events. And tell us a little bit about how you got from the smaller events or the weddings, which aren't small, but the one-offs. And then when did it click for you that corporate is, because that's what you're mostly doing now, right?
Mhm.
So when did it click for you? And what was your approach to shift your business from concentrating on one side to the next, which would be the corporate?
This is a story you might want to grab a tissue for. It clicked like about 2015.
Okay.
So pre-COVID, for me to make the plans and to build the network. Now, the easiest plan was simple. Every couple I worked with had a job. So
Hmm.
even just get back to suggestive selling for a minute. Does your company do a holiday party? Who do I talk to in the building about that? Would you be willing to talk to them for me and tell them how much fun your wedding was? And it was a simple dialogue, right? Like that. We
Hmm.
started to build it and we started to, when we looked at our budget, we had a huge budget in 2014, 2015 that was for our weddings, bridal shows, web, listings, all that stuff. And we started taking money from that budget and started working on things like networking and getting involved with MPI and ILEA and NACE. We started looking at opportunities for us. We put on our own showcases. We put on our own business after hours, which was a huge showcase in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. We would rent out a hotel room. We would have them do hors d'oeuvres when we'd have everything set up and we would run them through an experience at an event with us and also encourage some networking. We did some facilitated networking with them. We built that up and we were ready to go. 2020 was going to be the year. And then we all know what happened. The world shut down. I watched the majority of my business, and I have another targeted business beyond just the corporate, and that was kids' entertainment. But everything came to a grinding, screeching halt. I had conventions booked that wound up canceling. I still have weddings
Bless
on the
you.
books. We all had that stuff going on. And it took a little while, but we pivoted. We pivoted during COVID and did some weird stuff to still make some impact. Truth be told, and this is going to throw you for a loop, and Dave, I don't know if you've heard this story. I bought a hot dog cart during COVID because food service was an essential employee. And you could go to work and you could sell food and you could generate revenue because nobody understood from a business standpoint. The public didn't understand that we still had to pay our rent, our insurance, our
Hmm.
overhead still had to exist. And we still have to pay that. Now, granted, the government did a heck of a job with, coming to our aid and making sure that we had, some kind of way to survive all this. But I think we could all agree, if you look around to the small businesses you knew in 2019 and the number of those businesses that were there in 2019 and looked at them in 2022, that number went down. There were people who did not survive this whatsoever. We pivoted because we wanted to survive, and we did. We bought a hot dog cart, and we got involved with a couple of different things. We were selling on Route 1 at an ice cream shop. So, and it was on a stretch of road called the Auto Mile, which is just north of where Gillette Stadium is. So we would have the people from the different auto dealerships coming in and buying hot dogs, but we networked with the councils on aging. And we went and talked to them and said, hey, we have an idea. We have one of those little transmitters, and we did music bingo, and we had a parking lot party, and we served lunch. And that met the need of the people in the Council on Aging. My dad was in the Council on Aging and ran the one where I grew up, and he said one of the biggest concerns they had was trying to get the seniors to get out of their homes and feel somewhat safe. So we made that happen. We converted the parking lot into a big party. Every other parking spot was left open, so there was social distancing, and we actually transmitted into their cars. We served them a hot dog lunch, and they played music bingo for 2 hours and loved every minute of it. We got area businesses to chip in some gift cards, and that's what we did. On our kids' entertainment stuff, we went through, and in the book I talk about you can't put a price on the future of Goodwill. And again, this all happened at home, so let me preface that. I lived with my fiance and at that time her teenage daughter, and we were all home. And there was a lot of tension, obviously. If you had kids, you not only had to do your job, you also had to kind of help with what they were trying to do in school because schools weren't in session. And I heard it over and over again, and even in my own house. And I said to myself one day, I said, there's got to be a way to break the tension. So we actually we rented a trailer, a flatbed trailer. We strapped on a couple of bubble machines, a battery pack, and a powered speaker with Bluetooth. And we took our bubble playlist. We were doing kids' bubble parties before COVID where we were going to daycare centers, and we were actually entertaining the kids as an enrichment program for an hour. We actually went on tour, and we went into all the communities that we served, and we said, we're going to come through, and we're going to have a party on your street. We're going to come down the street. We're going to play some kid-friendly music. We're going to blast some bubbles. Come on out and party with us. The first one we did, it was an overcast day. There was a chance of rain. I went through about 12 neighborhoods and maybe saw one or two families each. But there were neighborhoods I drove through where kids took their driveway chalk and did thank you murals and had signs and were out dancing on their front lawn with their neighbors and having a blast. We didn't charge a dime for this. We didn't even care. We wanted to just break the tension and give people something good when everything was going, you can't do this, you can't do that. Come out on your front lawn and dance and have some bubbles. And you know what? Enjoy the time with your kids, even though they're home and they're driving you nuts. It was a break for everybody, and it actually yielded us a lot of business down the road because we had people who reached out to us and said, that's a pretty cool concept, and we're tired of the drive-bys for Billy's birthday. It's my daughter's birthday. Can you back that in my driveway and do a party for us? So we actually put hula hoops down. We backed in the driveway, and we did a bubble party that was socially distant for a half hour. But so a lot of that stuff that you asked about, Art, it all came about just from changing some of the pivots. And like I said, when we went, we actually did our own trivia nights in the parking lot of a shopping mall. We had food trucks. We had socially distant. We had all of our bar customers come down to the shopping mall, and the shopping mall gave us gift cards to give away. And we did a huge trivia night. And we were doing networking stuff. We just pivoted with the times. But that's really how that all happened. And it was a lot of networking. Like I said this in the seminar that Dave sat on. The majority of my business is either repeat customers or it's through my network. it is very rare that I am getting somebody brand new for the first time that found me off my website.
So a lot of this is it's being proactive, right? Thinking
Mhm.
the overused term, thinking outside the box, but it really is. It's
Exactly.
going the extra mile, getting up out of your seat, doing something, and not just sitting behind a computer all day waiting for leads to come in, right? You're networking, which is the huge word there is networking, meeting people, talking to people, asking people for questions. This is what I'm getting. And even during COVID, going out, right? Because they're not coming to you, everyone's stuck inside, and you're going out and you're exposing yourself to other people in a different way than you had before. The key was just to get in front of these people in some way, shape, or form,
I've
physically.
heard about him exposing
Exactly.
himself. So.
Shh. We can't have that conversation.
Okay.
You're right. But think about this for a minute. And I had this conversation. I was being interviewed by a chamber of commerce a couple weeks ago. Think about this. We're all in, I call them the townie groups, right? Like each town has like all about Franklin, Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
And that's where people go and they talk about something that's going on in town or they're looking for a recommendation, right? And we've all seen it in the wedding and photo booth business and the DJ business. I need a DJ, I need a photo booth, I need this, I need that. And everybody jumps on those and goes, call this guy, call Funny Face Photo Booths, ask for Rob, call Game Show Parties of Boston, whatever that is. That's great. But here's the missing piece, which is why those work, but they don't work as well as a trusted referral.
hmm
Those are people you don't know. So um, when you're the person going through this list and you're looking at all these names, if it's not somebody that you personally know, you're going to put that on the back burner, especially if there is somebody on that list of people that responded that maybe are, I don't know, a relative, a neighbor, somebody you know from work. When it's a personal recommendation, it
hmm
carries weight.
Yeah.
And going out and shaking, I call it shaking hands and kissing babies. And it sounds so, so easy, right? But it's true. When you're expanding your network and getting new people in that you've never met before, it goes a long way, especially if that introduction came, for example, from Dave, right?
hmm
Like, Dave, you trust Dave. So when Dave says, Rob's your guy, you're going to listen to what I have to say with a little more intent because of the fact that Dave told you I'm it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I trust everything with Dave.
I do too. I call Dave on Saturdays and go, my photo booth isn't working. What are we doing wrong?
Did you turn it on
That,
yet?
that,
But listen,
that,
I always answer or I always call back as quickly as possible if I'm not
He
available.
does. Yes, he
So,
does.
and that's I think a key too to responding to people. Don't be afraid. That's
hmm
one of the things I'm gathering is don't be afraid to talk to people
Yeah.
and ask for that connection. That's what so many people we come in contact with in the photo booth side, at these events or that are booking, a lot of them aren't entrepreneurs or work for themselves. They work for big companies.
Mhm.
Everybody likes to do holiday parties.
Yep.
Why not ask them, hey, do you guys have a photo booth at any of your parties? And if so, who could I reach out to?
Yeah. And
It's making a connection. Don't be afraid to ask.
a lot of
I
people
think it
are.
comes down to, well, go ahead, Art. I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
just saying a lot of people watching. They're going to feel overwhelmed. Like this is a lot of information, and it's almost as if we need to kind of like advice. What would be like a one, two, three, maybe step to start doing this? Someone who doesn't normally network and doesn't normally go out and meet people. What kind of advice would you give them just to get started? Like, because it's like, oh my gosh, I know 600 people. Like, where do I start? You know?
So I'm going to give you three things. I'm going to give you the easiest thing you can do to get into the corporate. Can I start there? Because I was ready to give you this. Real
Yeah.
simple. I used to have a questionnaire that every wedding couple that came in and met with me had to fill out name, address, email address, how'd you hear about us? But I used to ask them where they worked and what they
Okay.
did. And that's how I figured out, okay, these are people that, probably these are big companies. These are companies I'd love to get my foot in the door.
Hmm.
But getting back to what you were asking about, the real simple thing to get started is sit down with a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and a pen if you're old school and write down who your friend are.
Right.
Your friends, your relatives, your associates, and your neighbors. Just
Okay.
write that list, okay? And what you've got to remember is you don't want to get to know, are they going to need your service? What you need to put yourself in the mindset of is, do they know somebody that might need me?
Hmm.
So don't be intimidated if there are people on your list, and I'll explain the lesson that comes with it in a minute. On the surface, may not seem viable. They might be married already. They might be working a job that has nothing to do with anything that we do or might be able to give them. But it's not about them. It's about who they know. You're pre-COVID. I was in this networking group that was through an event planner. She used to put on her own networking events, which was really cool. But she had a lot of people that weren't in the event industry. And these were people, for example, these were wealth advisors where if your net worth wasn't 10 million, he wouldn't tell you what time it was.
Hmm.
And she would do an exercise where we would get into groups and we'd have to do our 60-second pitch and talk about what a good referral for us is. And that's a key phrase right there, by the way. If you're going to a networking event and you want to win somebody over, have a conversation, get to know them a little bit. And just on a whim, as you're closing out that conversation, hey, Art, listen, I know we're here for the same reason. We're here to meet people and possibly able to find ways to do business. If I happen to come across somebody that is looking for a gaff gun, what's an ideal referral for you? Ask that
Gotcha.
question.
Yeah. And it's not
Okay.
about me.
But
You're
back,
actually making it about them.
exactly. But back to my story. So I was always paired with these high wealth people, these realtors that sold multi-million dollar homes. And I'm like, I'm a DJ, guys. I DJ corporate events and I DJ weddings. And most of my wedding couples can't afford $1 million home. And I got frustrated after about a month of going to these meetings because I wasn't getting a lot out of it. It was costing me a little bit of money.
Hmm.
And I spoke with the owner. And again, she was an event planner. We did business together. And I felt that I at least owed it to myself and to our professional relationship to at least talk to her about it and see if maybe I was reading it wrong. Maybe there was something I was missing. And I sat down with her. Her name is Valerie. Great woman. She actually still does networking events to this day that are really a lot of fun. And I said, Val, I said, I don't know what to do. I'll be honest with you. I keep getting paired with these people. I feel like we're getting square pegs and round holes. And she goes, forget about what they do for a minute.
Hmm.
But do you know that all their wives are like on these planning committees and these boards for these galas?
Hmm.
I'm like, no. She's like, you never thought to ask. I'm like, why would I? She goes, don't judge the book by the cover. In the next meeting, I'm going to sit in with you and I'm going to bring it up so that we can bridge it together. So the next meeting, we get together, and of course, I get paired in this thing, and she comes in and joins the conversation. And she goes, hey, Bill, isn't your wife on the board of this charity, this charitable organization? And don't they have a gala coming up? And Bill rolls his eyes, right? Like you could see Bill was like, we hit the emotional pain point with him. Oh, she's driving me nuts. Like we're arguing all the time. She is so stressed out. She's got so much going on. They don't know what they're going to do for entertainment and blah, 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 blah. And they need to make money.
Hmm.
And Valerie goes, well, Rob's done stuff for me personally. He'd be a great fit. And quite honestly, have him sit down with you and your wife. So the next, like 2 days later, we got together for coffee. I did the sales meeting with Bill there. And we signed a contract right on the spot for DJ. We talked about, we figured out a way to do photo booth with them. and made it so that we got paid. We did give them a little bit of a break because it was a fundraiser, but they got a sponsor to pay for it, which was pretty neat. And we
Yep.
walked out of that Panera Bread, me and Bill and his wife. He kissed his wife, she got in the car and left, and he goes, "You are a godsend." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You just made my whole life so much more tolerable. She is a different person now." And she goes, "How'd you do it?" I go, "I was just me." And realistically, he goes, "I'm going to start recommending you to some of the other people I know that are in the same position." And he's like, "I would have never thought that our connection would have been this way. And I didn't even think that you would be the solution for what she was going through." You got to connect the dots sometimes. And that is the hard part. That really is the hard part sometimes, because you do get people. I mean, I've done stuff for some of the New England Patriots, and it's happened. We talked about things that happened by accident and without intent earlier. I that all fell in my lap, but it was just purely who I knew. People recommended me to them.
Yep.
But remember one thing: if you're building your network, start by writing it down. So let's get back to what you were asking. Write down who you know. And then let them know that you're open to referrals. Do you happen to know anybody? That's really all you have to do to get started. It's not rocket science.
Nope.
Well, and the thing is, with the photo booth, your photo booth customers, even if you've done past events for the past couple of years and you haven't done this, bring up that customer list and reach out to them and say, "Hey, thank you again for your business, whatever you did for them. And I was just wondering if you know of any businesses that might be looking for," because, right around now is when companies are starting to plan for their Christmas parties. I'm just using it
a little bit. Yeah, they are.
Or their summer picnics and things like that. So, now's the time to reach out and ask, "Hey, do you know who I might be able to reach out to? I mean, I know you guys had a wonderful time. And what I do is I look at the pictures and say, I remember your grandmother, or, there was an aunt that was really, really enjoying the booth, and, throw something out there that's kind of touching to them that they might remember, and, say, "Hey, we'd like to create some memories for your company party. Do you know if they have anybody or who I could reach out to?" And a lot of times it doesn't hurt them to give you a name to reach out to, or an email. That's you're going to make that connection. And then when you reach out to that person, you say, "Hey, I got your information from someone that we did a private event for. I understand, you might not be looking for something right now, but, we do corporate parties, we do all types of things. List what you have, and we would love to offer you a discount, or, we would even like to, do even an employee event, for you."
Find out, it's funny because in the corporate world, in the DJ and photo booth industry, the first thing you think of when you talk about corporate events is the holiday party. And you forget about some of the other stuff that corporate does. Some of them do summer outings. Some of them do team building events. Some of them will hire you to go do a retirement party.
Yep.
And depending on the business, they might even hire you if they're doing a trade show in town. Rent your photo booth for that.
Yeah.
Set them up with a selfie, and I'll give this away tonight because honestly, I know other people know or have at least heard about it. If you got a selfie station and you're using something like Curator and able to capture the text numbers, do that and give them the text numbers to do follow-up with. It's so easy. And you know what? If you're comfortable enough dropping it off, we all know that stuff pretty much operates itself. And it's an easy sell. And quite honestly, you could be their guy. And we talked about this, Dave. I think you remember this when we were at the convention. Howard Howard Wallach and Jeffrey Sandler did a seminar on galas, and they were talking about how they were the guy to those organizations. Be their guy. That's what networking is all about. Be recognized as the guy who goes to every Chamber of Commerce meeting. I've been in the same Chamber of Commerce, guys, for like 30 years. And I walk in and I'm like Norm from the sitcom Cheers. Everybody knows my name. They don't shout my name or anything, but they know who I am. They know I'm a fun guy. They want to come up and talk to me and find out what I've been up to. And they are the best because I got so comfortable with them. And it was years of doing things like doing sound for their meetings, or being the MC and the host for the taste event where they had about 50 or 60 restaurants, and literally being on the microphone and trying something that quite honestly I'd never eat before or again, but making it sound good for 20 seconds so that people would flock over to that booth. I tried some really good food at those taste events, but I got to be honest with you, there was a couple of days that it was like, yeah. But you know, be the guy. Be recognized as that guy or girl, right?
Exactly. That person. Be that go-to person.
Be the go-to. And you know what? I tell people all the time, if you're planning something entertainment-wise and you don't think I do it, call me anyway. And they ask why. I might not do it, but I know somebody who does. And if I'm not comfortable doing it, like rock walls, I'll give you a prime example. I am uncomfortable with bouncy houses and rock walls.
Yeah.
Too many bad experiences. But I know a company that does rock walls, and I know a company that does bouncy houses. And I know that when I recommend them, I'm not only recommending somebody that's going to give them a great experience customer-wise, but they're also a company that is safe.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when I hand that out and I give that to somebody and I go, here, Dave, here is Busy Bee Jumpers. Give them a call. When that jumper shows up and they take out a mop and mop it after they've set it up just to make sure it's clean before they leave. That's a small thing that makes a big difference.
Again, you're that go-to guy, because even if it wasn't something that you do, they're still going to come back to you because you've referred them something that they can use in the future. And if they have any other things that they may want, even if you don't still have it, you may know where to get the right stuff.
And don't be afraid if these people do something that you do, right?
Yeah.
Like we all know that for example, I have an open air, I have a selfie station, and I just bought a 360 booth. Thanks, Dave. Dave gave me some good recommendations here. I haven't used it yet, but we're still training on it just to make sure we understand how everything goes together, and I'm training my crew. I don't own a mirror. And truth be told, if you are at MEX, Ken Costco, the MC for MEX, is 20 to 30 minutes away. I don't even know if he's watching right now. If he is, hey, Ken, what's up? But I call Ken for my mirror booths, and he runs a DJ company. And I refer him those customers because I know he'll do a great job. And quite honestly, I want my customer taken care of. Am I worried about the fact that Ken's running a DJ company too? Not really, because I've cultivated that relationship and I've earned their trust that they're still going to come to me because they like my style, and I give them what they expect and then some. So I've earned that ability to be able to do that. It's not always perfect, truth be told. And our performance and our guest experience is probably the easiest thing for us to sell to almost anybody. And it doesn't cost us a thing. In fact, we get paid for it week in and week out.
Well, and that's one of the things you said was very key. The experience that you're creating for the people. You know, guests most of the time don't care about what equipment you have.
Yeah.
They care about what is the experience that they're having or their guests are having at that event. And that's
That's
a lot of
exactly
people
right.
a lot of people try and sell, well, I've got Pioneer, or I've got this booth, I've got that booth.
Yep.
I my best sell is creating an image of what we do and what the guests are going to walk away with experience wise.
Yes. 100%.
You're creating a story.
Yep.
It's the experience. It's what they walk away with. But where does that all come from? It comes from the people.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it gets back to what we've been talking about. My people, it's funny. I'm fussy when it comes to two things, guys. I'm fussy. I'm a fussy eater, but I'm also fussy about the people that come to work for me, and I'm very particular. And I'm particular because of the fact that when they go out, I don't want them on their phone. I don't want them distracted from something. I want them all about being a fun person that's hosting trivia, or a fun person that's inviting people to come into the photo booth and get their picture taken, and maybe complimenting the bald guy about his barber. You know what I mean? I want that kind of environment. Like, I look for personality huge when it comes to people that are coming to work for my business, because they are a reflection of the experience that we're going to provide them. And it's funny because it's very rare to find it. And it's the one skill that, as a business owner, you can't teach anybody. I can teach how the buttons work. I can teach how to run software, but I can't teach art how to be art and how to be on and fun. That's a natural thing.
It's experience, right? It is 100%. We are all this stuff that we're doing. Yeah, like Dave, you said, it's not about the Pioneer, it's not about the EV speakers or the Bose, or whether you use Serato, or whether you use virtual DJ, or whether you're a vinyl guy. The guests don't care. They're there for entertainment. And that's what we are. We're entertainers. We just happen to have some tools with us. Like a magician has tools too, but the magicians aren't, saying, well, he uses this, I use this type of deck when I'm doing card tricks. No, it's not about, the guests don't care what brand of cards you're using. They're there for the experience of being wowed by the magic tricks, so to speak, and wowed by our personality when we're in the photo booth, or when we're DJing, when we're emceeing, when we're running trivia, those types of things that they're paying for entertainment.
Yep.
It reminds me of a lesson back in the day. When I was very young, I worked in the shop at my dad's gas stations. Like, I turned wrenches for a while, and it got to a point where I wanted my own tool set. And you have companies like, at that point in time, Craftsman was owned by Sears, and you could go down to the mall and get a tool set, or you had these trucks from like Mac Tools or Snap-on, and these guys would come in, and they would show up and sell me a wrench set that was like $79 that I could go buy at Sears for $20. And my dad pulled me aside one day because I was about to drop $79 on a wrench set. And he said, do you know, nobody's going to walk into the shop and look at you and go, I'm going to hire you, or I'm going to get my car fixed here because you're using that fancy wrench for $79. He said, save your money, wait till Dave leaves, and go down to Sears and pick up a wrench set. My first DJ system after college was a mixer and 2 portable CD players.
Wow.
Not pitchable, consumer grade. I bought them. I don't even remember where I bought them. I think I bought them at Best Buy. But that's what I used. I didn't have Gemini pitchable anything for about a year.
Yep. That's when I know when I first started in the photo booth industry, I bought my first booth off of eBay, and it was a used camera. It was a mini laptop back then, 2010 or 9 or whatever. It was the little 7-inch laptop. You don't even see them anymore.
Right.
It was a little Canon point and shoot camera that connected to it, and I was using a HP home printer, to print a 4x6 or strips that I had to cut. Like the strips, I had to cut the 4x6 by hand, with like a little paper cutter type thing. Then after I saved up some money and I learned about the DMP printers and the photo printers that cuts it, I was like, I mean, I don't have to do this anymore. Does it automatically? Well, sign my ass up, and I bought that. And then, that's what really, really kind of just took my business to the next level, because that freed up so much more time. Mm-hmm. We were actually able to do more photos. And people were like, oh my God, your system is so quick. I came out of the booth and, here I am, and you're handing me my pictures. And, if they saw a photo booth, because back then there weren't a lot of photo booths out, they're like, oh my God, I have this picture in like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. This is awesome, and they didn't
improved
care.
the experience. You improved the experience is what you did.
It was the experience that, they were. And in that meantime, we get to talk to the people and joke with them. And back then we used to do, I used to do the scrapbooks and everything, as a standard and all that. And, we'd get to talk to the people and, laugh with them and, hey, how do you know the bride and groom? And, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you took that photo with that thing and did that, and, or just joking with them and creating that fun environment that they would go get other people and come back to the booth with other people that, had no interest, but they'd go over and say, oh my God, this guy was awesome. Or, whoever I had working it, they're so much fun. You got to come over and you got to try this thing. And then it just grew. And then, once people came through and they have their experience and they're looking at their photo and, they realize that they don't have to be serious in these photos and that, they can let loose and relax. And it just, I think creating that mood and that experience flows through and loosens things up across the event also. And, it doesn't matter if you're the DJ, or the photo booth or photographer or videographer. I think creating an experience that kind of helps break the tension is what's so important to kind of, gear towards, that will help you.
And I spoke about this before. I used to walk around, I still do. This industry, when I got into it, was just, I was doing it. I was a college kid. I got paid $50 to spin a school dance, right? And 1987, 1988, for a shy kid coming out of his shell, to be able to get paid decently and for the girls to know my name, was a pretty good deal. And to be able to take it to that level and to be able to invest in it. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to get wrapped up sometimes. And you look at the other people in the industry, and we were talking about this with small business at a seminar I was doing. If you look at our industries as a whole and the number of photo booths that have been sold probably since COVID expired and things reopened, right? And then you go to PBX or MEX and you look at how many people show up. There's a huge gap of people who are doing this for one reason or another that, quite honestly, again, we talk about doing things by accident or doing it on purpose. If they put intent behind it, they do so much more. You look at your Chamber of Commerce, and that was part of the inspiration of writing the Small Business CEO's Playbook. Is I'd written a book 20 years ago for DJs about business and how to run a business because nobody was doing it. And I took the best parts of that book and put it into this new one. But when you look at your Chamber of Commerce book that they send you with everybody in it, or you go online and you look at it, and then you go to a business after hours or a legislative lunch or anything like that, the number of businesses that don't go to those things, there's a huge gap. And you're missing the opportunity because these chambers are giving you an opportunity to walk through the door and meet people. It's kind of like what it is funny when I wasn't really a big proponent earlier in my career about wedding shows. It seemed like a lot of money. And again, this was the Yellow Book age, right? The Yellow Page age where you were gauged basically on your quality on how big your Yellow Page ad was. But somebody said to me one day, do you realize that these brides pay to come in and talk to you? And I'm like, okay, well, that now makes a little more sense why I should think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was more concerned about there's like 5 other DJs in the room. Didn't matter.
Yeah, it's the personality. You have the opportunity to make that sale, to make that connection.
Well, and you need to know how to sell yourself against your competition. You know, you kind of there could be 5 DJs that do photo booths. There could be 5 photo booth companies there. What you need to do is develop a script that explains why you're different than them. What sets you apart? What makes you unique? You know, and that's
Dave,
what
I might
need.
even argue with for a second on that.
Okay.
If I can for a minute.
Sure.
You don't even need the script. And I'm going to tell you why. If you, with a prospect, have a set script, and I'll call it a script just for a minute, right? And you have a set script or a set list of questions, 4 or 5 questions to engage in a conversation with somebody, they're going to tell you everything you need to know about whether they're serious or not, whether they can afford you or not, or whether they're interested or not.
Right.
And if you remember the little details of that conversation and you get them to an appointment, whether you're DJ, photo booth, photo, video, doesn't matter who you are. And you remember that they brought up that they had so much fun at their cousin's wedding because they had purple boas. And when they come into your showroom or your meeting or you go and meet them and you're either wearing or have one there and go, was this the feather boa that you remember wearing that was purple at your cousin's wedding? And you remember that little detail, right?
Yeah.
That's when things like the amount of colleagues, and I call them colleagues because for years we called everybody competitors, and on the surface, that's what they are. But at the end of the day, when you need your butt saved because something happened to you or to one of your people, and you're calling a so-called competitor, they're not your competitor in that moment. They're your colleague. But when you take that little thing that they remember the most and you make it part of what you're going to talk about, it's a win.
Right.
Scripts, I think what happens with scripts after a while, when you get to about the 18th bride that has said, no, I already have a DJ, you begin to get flustered. And you're like, why am I doing it? But
so when I'm saying scripts, I mean, you know, you need to have a base to talk to. But
exactly,
like I said, asking the questions, you know, your script could be questions that you're asking them to gather more information.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's exactly. I'm on the same page with you on that. That's so important. And just remember that when you're jumping from question 3 to question 4, don't just jump because they might bring up something that might be a better fit to continue that conversation than whatever question number 4 in your head is.
Right.
Yeah. Keep listening.
You might miss that opportunity.
And the big thing that a lot of people don't do, and this is just personally, I've done it myself, is not listen. Sometimes you get so excited because somebody says something that you want to you know, interrupt them and say, oh, I know what you mean, you know, this, and you want to give your point of view, and sometimes you just need to let them finish and let them get through what they're telling you. And I know a lot of people that happens to people is, and like I said, I've done it myself a million times, just listening to what people are saying.
Taking notes, and this not just something you can use in the sales process. Having notes about things that you talk about with people, whether you are now, see, Art's ready to go. Whether it's a sales or a networking thing is huge. I used to, and again, we went high tech with our pitch at a wedding show where we're doing all of our entries now on iPads because it's a lot easier, and quite honestly, people's handwriting, it takes too long to transcribe it. But I still sit there with an index card in my jacket pocket. And at the end of that conversation, I'll watch while they're typing in their name. And I'll be like, okay, Ava, who's getting married on April 13th, was talking about the purple boas. And I'll put that back in my pocket and move on to the next customer. One of the things we were talking about networking earlier, when you end a conversation, don't be shy about taking a moment to write your notes down in the moment. I believe I touched upon this. One of the best ways to do that is step into the restroom. Sounds crazy. But that's a moment away from everybody where you can go, how am I going to remember this? Quite honestly, there's not too many people looking over your shoulder going, what's he writing down? And it's a moment for you to clear your head from that conversation so you can go back out there to the next one.
Somebody's going to be going to the bathroom a lot.
As long as you're not looking around the stalls.
Yeah, why is this guy going to the bathroom all night?
Exactly.
What's he doing in there?
And I had this happen. It was funny because I was at a NACE meeting and I had done a conversation and we were done at that point. Her friends had shown up. And we had swapped business cards, and I walked away from the conversation, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a quick moment because it was actually in a place that was really loud. It was a bowling alley. And I stepped in, and there was a guy standing at the sink doing notes on a business card. And I'm like, geez, great minds think alike. He's like, well, that's not originally why I came in here. I'm like, okay, well, this is. And I've made my notes. And ironically, we walked out probably within a minute or two of each other and went to the bar. And so I said, all right, so who did you meet? And he told me who he met. And he's like, well, who did you meet? And I said, and by the way, my name's Rob. And we wound up having a conversation. Come to find out, he was the director of catering in a place. He's brand new to a place that I had worked at before. I had no idea that the director of catering had changed, and I wound up walking out of there with a meeting. And yes, I did write down when that meeting was after we were done with the conversation, when I stepped aside to be able to make notes. Don't be shy about making notes, but make sure you do the follow-up. And that I guess that is the other big thing when it comes to any of it, is don't make a commitment that you're not going to keep. If you meet somebody, you know what? I'm going to follow up with you next week. Make sure you're following up next week. Make sure you're sending them an email, even if life gets in the way. And it happens, right? I got food poisoning 2 weeks ago. I had a networking event on Thursday, and I said, I'll get back to you on Monday. Monday, I was still recovering from food poisoning, and I didn't want to deal with anything. But I still picked up my phone and said, hey, Ann, it was great to see you last week. I know I said I was going to get back to you with some quotes, but I'm a little under the weather today. So give me another day and I'll get that for you. Don't keep your commitments. It's funny. One of the things that I do in the book is I wrote 10 commandments, 10 unbreakable commandments for small business success. And a lot of it is just easy stuff. And I've touched upon some of it already. Like, you can't put a price on future goodwill. The big one, and this goes beyond just this conversation. Honor your commitments. If you make a commitment for anything, whether it's following up with somebody you met with at a networking event, or you made a commitment, maybe you lowballed the price and you're getting a call for something. And again, we all know it happens, right? And you want to think that keep your commitments. And it's funny because we all jump into the forums, we all jump into the groups on social, and we hear and see stories, and I just scratch my head and I go, some things just never change.
Yeah.
But keep your commitments, because you know what? That person could be the person that's going to yield you a lot of work when you treat them right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about this. So, I mean, these are great conversations, and a lot of what you're touching on is in your book. I want to show people about your book, right? I think
Sure.
this is so important. So, first things first, you have to go to your robpeters.biz site to
Good. Yep.
even
Rob Peters
find it.
is.
And I'm going to show you guys the homepage because you're going to be seeing this, right?
Look at that
And
handsome guy.
with the awesome derby hat. I love derby hats, by the way.
Yep.
Uh,
I got to be honest with you. You know who got me into those? And he was my mentor.
Sean
He's one of
Connery?
my best friends. Raymar, DJ Raymar got me into wearing scally caps. And it's funny because I had one as a kid. Now I'm half Irish, half Italian. My mom's the Irish side, and she bought me one. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't want to wear it. Now I can't go anywhere without it, especially with nothing up top. It's the only way that I can getting brain damage.
Well, yeah. I mean, you also got to protect yourself from the sun. It's very easy to get burned, even with clouds out there.
Exactly.
So it's a health thing, right?
Yep.
So you got your website there, and if we go over to the top, there's Small Business CEO's Playbook. You click on there, and there you can order the book. So you touched on a few things about the book. It's only $30. It's cheap, but we have a special, right? So those who are watching the show, and we're going to have this on YouTube as well. There's going to be a promo code so you can get a discount. So what kind of discount are we giving off of the book?
It's $5 off the book.
Okay.
And the discount code is HUSTLE5.
Okay.
Which is scrolling at the bottom, if anybody's wondering.
And oh yeah, by the way, I will say this. I value opportunities to be able to talk about this book with just about any industry. But I do sign every book that goes out because I do believe that there is something in here for everybody. The first book I signed and gave away, I gave away to my godson and my nephew, who is my financial advisor. And I gave it to him as a birthday gift. So there was kind of a purpose in this. And he's a financial advisor at a firm. So he's not running his own gig. But he said to me, there's something in here for me. So it doesn't matter whether you are a small business owner or maybe you're a realtor, you work with a firm, whatever that is, there's something in here for everybody. But yes, for your viewers, Hustle 5, and that doesn't expire, by the way.
That's cool. So, and this is going to be on the internet forever.
I know, right?
I'm gonna use the code, right? Because I do enjoy a good read every once in a while. And look, Dave's got
his copy.
You lucky
I do.
duck.
I've got a copy.
I got this. I got this
copy
at the convention.
I'm going to be ordering copies.
Dave was my lucky winner in the seminar, actually, because I gave one away during the seminar, which was pretty neat.
And he's currently frozen reading it right now. He's stuck on page 75.
He's immersed in that.
He's really no, but I'm excited.
It's funny. There's some stuff with this book, and it's funny because when I wrote the book originally to just be something to be able to give back, because that's what I've done for over 20 years. I've gone to DJ conventions and shared what I knew, the things I learned that have helped make me successful, so it makes other people successful. And I think I'm at a point with what I'm doing now where it's time to start making sure that the next generation of people that are doing photo booth and DJ and all the other stuff that's out there have the tools they need. And I feel like I benefited so much that giving back is so cool. But I have already written, and I joke with Rob Savickas from PBX every year. I always tell him, I think it might be my last year speaking. And at the end of the show, I walk up to him and I go, I've already got next year's written, so I'll get it over to you. When do you want it? And we have a chuckle over it. And believe it or not, I don't know if he's watching, but that's really the cool thing about this is I've uncovered a lot of stuff that I can share live, which is pretty neat. And again, I know we're very, we're photo booth with this particular broadcast, but if you know of a trade group that's doing a convention that needs something, or maybe they want to do facilitated networking, I actually am looking at doing some of that, but I'm also looking to put together small business support and being able to do maybe, like lunch and learns, or maybe a one-day seminar, something similar to what you see other organizations do, where they come in and they give one day of education and you get an opportunity to learn some stuff and do some networking in different cities. So it's something we're toying with right now. It's funny because I just wrote the book to write a book, and now I'm thinking about, well, why don't we come up with a way to make this a little more useful to especially people in small business? And again, I think we hit a home run with the industry we're in, because the majority of us are just that.
Yeah. And I just got to say thank you for what you're doing, because, there's a lot of information. You can go on YouTube and you can go on Chat GPT, and everybody's like, oh, I just Chat GPT it, or I Grok it, or this. But there's something to be said about being able to tap into a real person, right? Who has a long history of experience being a business owner, not just photo booth, not just DJs, in general, a business owner that has taken pieces of gold from his experience and from his travels and journey as a business owner, put it into a book, the most important things that, and Dave's power just went out, right? So but you don't have to worry about the internet going down. You can light a candle and read and still read and educate yourself, because it's so important to exercise your mind and continuously learn. And I can't wait to get my hands on this book, because Alan Berg is another author that I like to read, and the one that I read from him
I love
was
Alan.
probably,
Alan's been incredible for my business too.
it's probably like 15 or 16 years old, but it's still good today. Like a lot of these concepts in books that are written are there for a reason, and that's to be timeless and to be useful for a long time. So thank you for putting together this book. I can't wait to read it.
I'm going to tell you who to thank though, Art. So the funny story goes, I'd written The Business of Mobile DJing 20 years ago, and it sold about 500 copies. I had a publisher, and it was pretty well, that's what got me my speaking, and I focused on that. And I wrote for the trade magazines. I wrote for Mobile Beat. I wrote for DJ Times for a while, and I just continued doing what I was doing. And about 3 years ago, I was out with some friends, and one of my friends, his mom and I used to be in the same social circles. We used to know, I have a lot of mutual friends, and his mom had written a book, a kid's book, about how my friend helped Santa save Christmas. So it was kind of a funny story. We're sitting around with some friends, and of course there were some beverages involved, and I just blurted out, I wrote a book. I blurted out, I wrote this book. And so they start asking questions. And the next thing you know, everybody pulls out their phone and they start searching the internet. Look who's back, everybody.
Welcome back, Dave.
I had a complete power failure here for like
Well,
2
we always
minutes.
say we can't go without a technical difficulty. Like we're going to have t-shirts made up. Welcome to Photo Booth Magazine, technical difficulty, still loading or something.
I like that idea. No, Dave, we're telling the story about how the new book came to be. And so they all pull out their phones and they all start scouring the internet for this book that doesn't exist anymore. Like Pro DJ Publishing was gone, and Dave's gone apparently again. So my friend, whose mom I knew or know, found a copy of the book and tried haggling with the guy on eBay to buy the book for like under $5. I'm like, Aaron,
Oh my gosh.
I made $5 a copy on my book. I'm not making any money. So he gets the book, and we're out one day, and he goes, I started reading your book. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, no. There's a lot of useful stuff in there. And I'm like, really? And then I kind of went through my notes because the manuscript got lost. And I'm like, wow, we really did uncover a lot of stuff. I mean, that book was based on interviewing 500 DJs from around the United
Oh my
States
gosh.
about things that were relevant in 1995. Like, and if you think about it, we didn't have things like Wix or Weebly or, Squarespace to design a website. You had to pay people thousands of dollars to do
Hmm.
this stuff. Java,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So the more I talked to him and the more I thought about it, I'm like, and he said, you really should think about doing this. And I'm like, I don't know. And last July, we had another conversation. We were on a road trip, and I finally said, you know what? I'm going to write an outline. Because if I write the outline and I see that there's viable content that's going to be useful, I'll do it. I wrote the outline in 2 nights, and I discovered that half the content had already been written, and it was in the business of mobile DJing. And then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, well, I can't make this a DJ or a photo booth thing because honestly, the audience is too limited. And I'm
Yeah.
like in my 50s. I'm looking at, what do I want to do in about 10 years? I want to buy a motorhome and go see the country and see the world. I can't do that if I sell a book to just the photo booth or the DJ industries. It needs to be more. And then I thought about all the stuff I learned from my dad, and I put it all in there. And I'm like, it's got to be a small business book.
It's
And
good.
all chambers of commerce, I think do great with small business, but at the same time, they don't get quite the engagement. So the really cool thing right now is I'm working on a couple of things next year. There's a lot of stuff in the works right now. There's um, getting the book out, doing more of this stuff. Like I've been doing 2 or 3 shows like this a week since February, and it's been a lot of fun. And now I'm looking at possibly putting together a tour next year and hitting 2 or 3 states and doing different chamber events, one on top of the other on top of the other. And I'm still doing stuff in the
Hmm.
industry. Like I'm doing Arms DJ in June with Robbie Britton, and I'm doing I'm doing something else next year that I can't mention yet because it hasn't been released
Hmm.
by them. But I have a couple of conventions lined up for next year already.
Is there
And
NACE? Are you doing speaking at NACE as well? I assume.
no, not yet. That hasn't
Okay.
happened yet. But I put myself out there for a couple of things, and there were some things that panned out, and there were some things that we're not quite ready for yet. And I want to
Okay.
make sure that when we're ready to do this, this year I planned what I could plan, and next year I think it's going to be a lot better for me to be able to be out there more and to be helping small business owners thrive because, um, you know, you look at the bigger organizations, they have big support systems.
Right.
We just have each other, and if we can work together collaboratively as small business people, we've got a fighting chance. And I think small business gets a bad break. We only
Yeah.
celebrate small business 2 times a year, if you think about it. One of them is the Saturday after Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of messed up. And this is my
Yeah.
opinion. This is not Art's opinion or Dave's opinion, so I'm going to give you my opinion. I think Small Business Saturday is an awesome concept. Don't get me wrong. But I think the fact that it is held over until the day after all those doorbuster sales, where
Yeah.
we as a culture flock out to retail and spend the most money on, we're
Right.
telling everybody it's okay to give your leftovers to the people in your community that
Hmm.
support your local community.
Well, it's actually sandwiched now
Um,
because you've got Black Friday, then Small Business
yep,
Saturday, and then people wait for Cyber Monday.
exactly.
Right.
I personally think Small Business Saturday should be the Saturday before Thanksgiving
Hmm.
to give them a fighting chance because honestly, and again, I go back to the days I used to stand out in front of Walmart at 12 midnight, you know?
Yep.
But the money's there. It just, and again, I'm not trying to tell, American Express what they should do with a concept that I think is incredible. They're doing a great job with it. The only other time we really celebrate small business is coming up actually in about 2 weeks. The first full week in May is
Hmm.
Small Business Appreciation Week.
Oh, okay. I did not know
And
that.
that's something that a lot of people don't know about, right? One of the things we're doing, and I'm actually traveling that week, But one of the things we're doing is on all of our social media, we've picked, and I picked 5 businesses this year that I've already hand selected that were businesses that helped me get to where I am now. And they're small businesses, and I gave them a copy of the book. And what we're going to be doing that week is we're going to give away 5 more copies, and we're going to base it on our audience on social media. So we're going to run a contest on social media and nominate your business. And every day we're going to nominate and send a small business a copy of the book for free. Not that I can continue to afford to give books away. I mean, that's, but to be able to do this and be able to promote small business in the book and give 5 copies away to help some small businesses survive, I'm definitely on board with that. So,
well, I'd love to see that grow. And now that I hear about it, things are going to my head. So how can I utilize that for my business, right? So I may put out some small business week posts that whole week, right? And then if more and more people start doing it, then it starts to become more popular, goes viral, right? So yeah, I'll join that movement. Why not?
I take advantage of all that stuff. So, funny little marketing story. I used to be a huge guerrilla marketing guy. If you know the concept guerrilla marketing, it's basically big marketing on a little budget, right?
Yep.
And I found a calendar where you can find out all those novelty holidays and the weeks like that. In fact, Dave, if you remember, well, there was a bunch of them. So, for example, the day the book came out and the day I did my seminar at MEX, it was National Chocolate Mint Day, and I walked out on stage with a bag of peppermint patties and threw them out in the crowd. And that's what we did. And it's simple stuff like that. Like it really is. So, but yeah, to be able to help small business and give the benefits of what I've learned the hard way. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the book either. I'll be upfront with you. Dave will tell you that there are some things in there. I put in some of the mistakes I made.
Yep. Well, we learn from your mistakes.
For a reason. Well, that's just it. I learned big lessons from my mistakes, and it was some of this stuff is just so stupid. It's like, I got caught up in a internal argument, wanting to go by principle instead of what was in the best interest for the situation. I wanted to put my foot down to be in control, and that's what a lot of that is. And you just sometimes have to realize that sometimes you just need to let go of the control and be a nice guy. And you know what? You're gonna win in the long run. And the quote I have behind me is my quote, and I think it's really important. Professionalism is really cool, and I'll move over a little bit.
Let's see it.
If you act like a professional and you present yourself like one, you'll be respected like one and compensated accordingly.
It's true.
And I think that's so important in our industries where we have credibility and we have people that undercut to just get business through the door. And we have people who don't know the difference about things like overhead and things like that. You might not get every job, and that's okay. You might get, one half of what comes through the door because our businesses, DJs and photo booths, we're all saturated, right? Yeah. But it gets back to that experience, and that experience isn't always a fun experience. It's how you treat them. It's the professionalism you show. It's how you care about your community. And when you're doing all that, you're going to win. You're not going to win them all, but you're going to win because you're going to be able to justify who you are and what you charge.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's take a look one more time for the folks. The Small Business CEO Playbook by Mr. Rob Peters here. You go to www.robpeters.biz. If you use this code Hustle5, you get $5 off, and it makes only Hustle5. It almost looks like hustles, but it's Hustle5, folks. It's Hustle5.
It does.
And for people that don't like to read, it isn't a thick book. I mean, but there's a lot of really good information in here. So
the audio book is in progress. I will put that out there. There is going to be an audio version that you're going to be able to take with you. And we are working on a Kindle version to be able to get it because I've had several people come up to me and go, I think it's great that you wrote a book, but, I only read on my Kindle because it's environmental. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to embrace this a little bit more and go for it. So those are in the works. the part of the problem is I get like Gary Vaynerchuk when it comes to the audiobook. If you've ever listened to Gary Vaynerchuk in an audiobook, he throws it. Buy the audiobook from him. Don't buy the big book, because his audiobook, he throws in so much more content as sidebar, and it's not in the regular book.
So you didn't go with my idea and have Elmo read your book.
No, Dave, we were gonna actually have you, like, people can call up a 1-800 hotline and you read to them like as they're going to bed.
You know what? I would do that. I would do that. I would ask them how they want to seductive. So incorporate tip number 7.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rob,
it was funny because I was actually thinking about doing it as Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, there you go.
You know,
what do you mean, Pee Wee?
Today's word of the day. But
oh my gosh! Well, Rob, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, Rob. I know it's like.
Well, listen, guys, thank you for having me on. This has been a blast. It really has. I enjoy doing media and talking about the book, but you know what? It's great when it's in the industry that really helped me break my teeth, cut my teeth in getting into small business, and especially with when you're asked by a friend to be able to come on and do this. And Dave, I really do appreciate you inviting me on. And Art, I know it's the first time we met, but I am glad to know I am now you're my fan, and I am likely going to be providing you with more opportunity down the road at some point in time. So
now you're in my 601. Like you said 600. Well, now I got 601.
There you go. There you go.
I look at it as, listen, we're
you.
all part of a family, and you're part of our family too.
Yep. That's it. Anytime you need me to come on for content or anything, let me know. We'll put it together.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. And we'll probably take you up on that, especially, if you've got another book coming out soon, or when you get the audio book, or just whenever, because you're a treasure trove of information.
We didn't even really scratch the surface
tonight, no, not even close. I got to read the book, so I have some more questions.
Yeah.
That's what I got to do.
Well,
I have an assignment.
I'm partly working on some of the live content. So maybe as I develop one of these new live seminars, maybe we'll bring it on one night and we'll do it for your audience as that'd be cool, as a trial run to make sure that I've got, I'm covering my topic and my area of expertise the right way. I'd love to do that with you guys. Definitely.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for watching. And in case you don't know, you're watching on the Photo Booth Network. We do have a YouTube channel, so we're on YouTube. We'll have a link to that in the post tomorrow. These will be uploaded along with all of our other episodes. And once again, Mr. Rob Peters, thank you so much for coming on. It's robpeters.biz.
Thank you
for his book. The promo code is Hustle5, and you can get it, and it looks just like this. So hopefully you'll be holding one of these yourself someday. So have a great week, everybody. We'll let you know who's coming on the next episode. Talk to you guys in a bit.
Talk to you later.